Good evening and welcome to tonight's Hearthstone Half Hour. I'm Hammy, this is FailCraft Casts. Hope you're well this Tuesday night. It is Tuesday, and because it's Tuesday, it is Pick Your Own Arena Day. As always, we shout out on Twitter what arena class you want us to play. You then tweet, vote for it, and then everyone tunes in live on the chat to pick the deck that we want to play this evening. We then try and sneak in one, maybe two games, depending on how the half hour goes, to see how your deck and how your choices work out. You can pick a lovely deck that is a joy and a bliss to play. You can pick a terrible deck that is going to leave me in oh so much pain. It is entirely up to you, the viewers, so thank you very much. And just as a final shout, if you're watching this archived, you can join in live twitch.tv/FailCraft Cast, and that is Monday to Friday around about 7 to 8 PM UK time. However, we will always tweet at FailCraft Casts on Twitter, maybe a half hour, an hour before we go live. So adjust as per your time zone. Okay, the votes have been counted, the dice have been cast. A last minute vote for Hunter, last minute vote for Warlock, but the overwhelming vote this week was interestingly Shaman. So let us jump in, pick Shaman, and we are good to go. So what we shall do is look in the chat, and as we type away, we are going to be waiting for people to be shouting out what cards they want and when. So first up, we have more Murloc Warleader, Big Game Hunter, and then also Farsight. Draw a card. That card costs 3S. So while we are waiting for our first set of votes to come in, we'll then rapidly speed up as we go through. Always worth taking a look at what cards you're going to be drafting and a bit of arena strategy. So I am no arena master. However, there are some basic arena concepts you can go for. 1. Try and stick to a theme. 2. Depending on how that theme develops, review your deck at regular intervals so you can see such things as the mana curve of your deck, the sort of balance between minions and spells, and as to whether that theme that you try to pick is actually being carried out. So 3 simple tips. What do they let you do? 1, having some kind of theme means that at least you can try and pick the cards as best as possible around it, although of course an arena is random. 2, reviewing your deck at regular intervals will also help you with that, because you can see how your deck is faring out. Are you being able to stick to that theme? Do you have to change something a bit different? And thirdly, checking things such as the mana curve and similar mean that, again, you can just have a little test regularly. I'd say maybe at 10 cards, at 17 or 18 cards, and at 25 cards. Let's just take rough thirds or something similar, so you can see how your deck's working through. Okay. If there is a tie, or if people are too slow, I will always jump in and pick. Right, so for starters, I'm going to go for a Murloc Warleader. Shamans can summon loads of totems. They have lots of different tools that let you make minions ugly and quickly. So let's go for a Murloc deck. Next up, we have a Venture Mercenary, a Murloc Tidehunter, and a Fork Lightning. Now, the reason I picked Murloc, if I don't get a load of other Murlocs, I don't have to stick with a Murloc theme. That Murloc Warleader is a 3/3/3, is not awful, but it does really help any other Murlocs. In our second hand, Fork Lightning, a good control card with a bit of overload. The Murloc Tidehunter is a 2-for-1. Even if I didn't have other Murlocs, being able to summon 2 cards for the price of 1 in arena, pretty handy. Last but not least, the Venture Mercenary. Now, for 5 mana, he's a quick drop, but then your minions cost 3 more, so he has a downside for that very strong 7 attack and 6 health. If you can hear a song in the background, it is because an ice cream van, oh, the joy of joys, is coming around my neighbourhood. Lovely stuff. Okay, let's keep this draft moving. I'm going to try and keep this Murloc theme going. It's going to be a Shaman Murloc deck. Next up, we have Stormwind Knight, an Ironbeak Owl, and a Dalaran Mage. Okie dokie. So the Stormwind Knight, for a mere 4 mana, low attack, reasonably chunky health in the charge. So you will find, if you're a newer player, Hearthstone cards, what they're strong in one area, they might be lacking in another. They're in an attempt for balance. So although the mana cost is reasonable, he has a low attack, reasonably high health, and then the charge balances it out, so Stormwind Knight can come in and do a bit of trading. The Ironbeak Owl, that battle cry of silencing a minion, remove a tank, remove a nasty, removes the card text effectively, so anything in this box it removes, and also buffs on that card that have been applied as well. So useful in so many situations. Just suffice to say, it's a good wall breaker. It can take away the nasty abilities your opponent's minions may have, so a solid pick. And then the Dalaran Mage, spell damage +1. What he lacks for an attack, he makes up for in health and spell damage. He will stick around for a while and probably let you use that spell damage. In the absence of picks, I'm going to go for the Ironbeak Owl. Reason for that, I can use it to break deadlocks and similar. Next up, we have the Raid Leader. We have the Silver Moon Guardian, and a Direwolf Alpha. So actually a reasonable pick between the three here. Got a reasonable choice to make. Raid Leader. At the moment we're going to try as our theme to have murlocs and small swarmy cards. That's the rough theme we've gone out with because we saw a murloc in the first draft. Both Raid Leader and Direwolf Alpha complement this theme well. Raid Leader, your other minions have one attack, meaning that every minion that I drop on the board, if I get a Raid Leader down, that will get one more attack as well. So if I'm dropping lots of cheap, quick to play minions in the early game, this early part of the mana curve, the Raid Leader will help me make them all stronger, scarier, and most importantly of all, faster. So that's great. Direwolf Alpha, very similar as well, but note that it's only adjacent minions that have that one attack, not your other minions, not every single one, but just the ones either side. So one less mana, similar, well, identical attack, identical health, yet you can see a very slight difference. That extra mana gives you a global, or all of your minions, rather than just the adjacent minions. So those two cards summarised. Finally, the Silver Moon Guardian. He's not a tank, but he does have a Divine Shield. His slightly higher mana cost is justified by that Divine Shield. And with a 3 and 3, he will take some damage with that Divine Shield. The shield will get broken, and then he'll swing on in and do something similar. So, done. What should we go for? In the absence of chat picks, if you're in the chat, I can see a bunch of you there. You should sign in. Remember, if you sign into Twitch, it's free. Type in the chat, say hello. It's great to have you with us. And we also love having you vote on what cards you want as well. In the absence of chatty pickage, I'm actually going to go for a Raid Leader. Very, very scary. And next up, we have, this rushing, low pressure, sort of low mana theme is going on very, very nicely. So we have the Flame Tongue Totem, the Mad Bomber, and the Kobold Geomancer. Flame Tongue Totem, that goes very well with our swarming theme. Adjacent minions, just like the Direwolf, have 2 attack, not 1 but 2. That 3 health will cause it to stick around for a while. Awkward, a strong pick. Mad Bomber, the Battle Cry, for 2/3/2. For 2 mana you have a lot of 3 attack, 2 health cards. This just throws out a really random 3 damage. It could be to your hero, to your minions, to your enemy minions, to your enemy hero, just about anyone under the sun. That can be thrown down on. So, Mad Bomber, a fun card, a little bit unreliable. That word random, a little bit dangerous. Last but not least, Kobold Geomancer, early game, 2 mana, turn 2 if you want to. Drop, spell damage. It's probably going to die. You might trade it for something. You might get advantage of that spell damage. Absence of picks, I'm going for Flame Tongue Totem. Reason being, it goes with my murlocs. It buffs all my early game minions. You can see I'm going good. Right, and the next, we have a Big Game Hunter again, which we did not explain in the first draft, so I will do it again now. A South Sea Captain and an Earth Elemental. Nice little mix there. So the Big Game Hunter, useful. 3/4/2. It will die. It's got lower health for that 3 mana drop. However, it can destroy any minion when it comes into play with an attack of 7 or more. Big, big, scary legendaries. Anything big attack in the late game. Big Game Hunter just takes it off the table with 1 drop. And that is the main use for this guy in Constructed. Very handy. In Arena, you can drop him. He's probably going to die with that low health, but he might do something for you if you're not using his card text. South Sea Captain, your other pirates have 1/1. Great if you're playing a bunch of pirates, and a pirate warrior deck in Ladder has actually become good. I want to play through that next Monday on our New Play Mondays. Last but not least, the Earth Elemental. South Sea Captain, by the way, even if you don't use his ability, is 3/3/3. There's nothing really wrong with him for his mana, solid attack and health. Then the Earth Elemental, Taunt Overload 3. Shaman's Overload mechanic does of course mean that if I play a card with Overload, I lose that amount of mana next turn, as you can see on that tooltip just there. So if I play this guy, 5 mana, he's cheap, but next turn I will have 3 less mana to play with. So you have to be careful in managing that Overload mechanic when you're a Shaman. Now the Earth Elemental, if I drop him out, he really sticks up a strong taunting wall. I'm going to go for the Earth Elemental. I don't have a huge amount in the mid to late game yet. He will be a very robust choice. Next up, we have the Tauren Warrior, the Cult Master, and the Wisp, the Will-O'-the-Wisp, if you're familiar with that 80s cartoon. So Tauren Warrior, slightly low attack, but then you see that he gets taunt, so he's a tank, enrage. If he takes damage, he then becomes a 5/2, because he'll have taken 1 damage. And that's just a permanent effect. So a good early to mid-game tank. He will certainly slow your opponent down, and he can become a very nasty attacking threat. So by no means a bad card to draft, just as a general. The Cult Master, whenever one of your other minions dies to a card, the low health means it can get picked off quickly, but if you've got a lot of tanks up or similar small minions, then the Cult Master will give you a lot of card draw in a hurry. Last but not least, the Wisp. It is free, and then you can ping something with it. I'm going to go for the Cult Master. Reason being, card draw is good. Next up, Hound. Youthful Brewmaster, and the Spiteful Smith. Okay, the Core Hound, nothing much to say. Low health for that 7 mana, compensated by high attack. It's for 7 mana, useful as a finisher in Arena, however he may get picked off if your opponent is set up by then, so worth considering. Youthful Brewmaster, return a friendly minion from the battlefield to your hand. For 2/3/2, solid stats and a very useful ability. Last but not least, the Spiteful Smith, enraging your weapon has 2 attack, but then don't underestimate, as I always say, that strong attack and health. He's going to sit on the table for a while, he's going to be awkward, well worth considering, even if you don't have a weapon, and even though Shamans can wield weapons, at this point I don't have any to play. At this moment, I'm actually going to go for the Youthful Brewmaster. Reason, I have Murloc Tidehunter, I have some 2-for-1 cards, I have some cards I might want to save. If I want to return a friendly minion from the battlefield to my hand, that could benefit me quite a few ways. And with this early game pressure deck that we are going towards, that could be quite handy. Next we have the Skillwind Yeti, the Dragonling Mechanic, and the Archmage. Skillwind Yeti, basic card. It's basically the definition of solid. 4 mana, solid for attack, 5 health, it will stay around, it will do damage, it will help you trade, it can be made a tank. If nothing else, a really good general pick. Dragonling Mechanic is a 2-for-1, summon a 2/1 mechanical Dragonling. I could combo those with cards such as Raid Leader, Direwolf Alpha to give more attack. I could then perhaps Youthful Brewmaster that up, drop it again, summon another mechanical Dragonling, lots of combos there, and the Archmage with spell damage. Now I have no spell damage cards whatsoever, so it's got to be a Yeti or a Dragonling in the absence of any votage. And in future, guys, I would really encourage you to sign up for a free Twitch account. I can see you there. Just sign up, you can get involved in the chat, vote away, ask questions, good to have you around. But let us go for the... I'm going to go with the Skillwind Yeti. Now there's a good call for that Dragonling Mechanic as well. Ooh, nice, we have a rare draft. Rare. Okay, Injured Blade Master. The Young Priestess. The Cold Light Oracle. Blade Master deals 4 damage to himself, but then you can heal him back up. So he starts off 4/3 when you drop him down. Very, very solid stats for that mana cost, but then he can die. So let us see if he is... And Young Priestess, good trading card there in the Injured Blade Master. Young Priestess will buff another random friendly minion for 1 health every single turn. So if I'm swarming, which I am, then that can be a very, very strong card option. He can buff up all of my small cards for health if she stays alive. Last but not least, the Cold Light Oracle. Another Murloc, goes with my Murloc theme, but lets each player draw 2 cards, so it accelerates us both. Tricky decision. I'm going to go for the Cold Light Oracle for both card draw and for the Murloc theme. Next, we have the Goldshire Footman. We have Forked Lightning, or the Ancient Brewmaster. The Ancient Brewmaster I'm just going to deal with quite quickly. He is the later game equivalent, pretty much, of our Youthful Brewmaster. Youthful Ancient, slightly bigger stats, slightly different. There you go. 5/4. Pretty solid. I would be pretty happy dropping him turn 4. He'll do some damage. He'll probably trade a minion away, and he still has that battle cry as well. You have an Overload in Forked Lightning, doing 2 damage to 2 random enemy minions with 2 Overload. Good for clearing swarms. If people are trying to swarm me, then I'm certainly going to try and hit them back with that. Always a good option. Last but not least, the Goldshire Footman is really just an early game cheap taunt who will live a turn or 2 and then die. So I'm going for the Forked Lightning to keep things moving. We then have the Young Dragonhawk. Dragonhawk, the Unbound Elemental, or the Skillwind Yeti. Now I do not have loads of cards with Overload, so the Unbound Elemental really thrives if you can play a lot of cheap Overload cards. It gets buffed up very quick, but is a solid pick. The Young Dragonhawk, Wind Furies and probably dies, so for arena purposes I'm not going to go for that. I'm going to go for the Yeti, reason being 2 Yetis, just such a solid drop. Can go with a lot of things. Stormpike Commando, the Acolyte of Pain, or the Spellbreaker. Stormpike Commando, I can drop him in to do some 2 damage, and with that 2 damage, I could ping a minion, I could kill a minion, I could trigger an ability on one of my own minions, I could kill the hero. So lots of good options. The battle cry is made up for with the low health. Acolyte of Pain, whenever it takes damage, draw a card. Card draw is good. That may be my default option. There are so many ways that he can take damage, even if I trigger it myself. Last but not least, a Spellbreaker, the double buffed Iron Beak Owl. Pretty much, but slightly more health. Can silence. Will go for Acolyte of Pain. I need some card draw if I'm going for this rush style of play. Next, the Dark Iron Dwarf, the Shield Bearer, or the Flame Totem. Now if I'm swarming and I'm toteming, I'm going to go for the Flame Tongue. Shield Bearer, of course, I can buff up with some other cards. If that comes up again, I might well grab it. And the Dark Iron Dwarf lets me just buff another card for 2 attack this turn. But otherwise it's a 4/4/4 solid, so I'm going to keep the Flame Tongue. We are firmly committed now to a rushing style. As we quickly take a review point and let you guys get settled in, I've gone past my initial 10 card review point. Remember our basics. Try and pick some kind of theme and stick to it. Then review your deck as you're drafting your arena at regular points. And third, see how your mana curve and general spell to minion ratio is going. So first up, I've gone over. Let's see where I am at 14 cards. Where am I? Okay, I have a reasonable mana curve. If we look in, I've got still a waiting towards the early game, nothing in the late game. So even if I didn't see anything else, that would indicate to me I'm playing a rush, pressure, aggro, early game, whatever you want to call it, style of deck. Point 1. Point 2, what is my ratio? How are my spells to minions kind of going? Well, I've got 1 spell there. Yeah, okay, not any spell. I've literally got 1 spell, so I'm very minion heavy. Again, that suggests sort of throwing the minions down and rushing with that kind of style. Last but not least, how am I looking in terms of general balance of cards and what do I have? Well, in the early game, I've got some totems, I've got an Owl for Silence, I've got not a huge amount of murlocs, but if I draft more murlocs, my deck will become a murloc deck. I can pick up minions with my Brewmaster and still attack. I can draw cards with my Acolyte, buff with my Raid Leader, draw and buff similarly with my other murlocs. Chill and Yeti will give me a solid 4-drop option to trade, pick off. The Cult Master will let me draw cards. The Earth Elemental comes into the mid-game as a very solid tank, so looking pretty good there. I'm feeling that so far, given looking at my mana curve, looking at my balance, I could maybe do with some more spells. I could do with more murlocs to cement this theme. I could maybe do with some tanks to protect my murlocs, but so far, so good. Next up, let's continue drafting. We've got the Darren Mage, we've got the Fairy Dragon, and we've got the Bloodsail Raider. So, Darren Mage, we've already discussed. Spell damage at the cost of attack. Fairy Dragon can't be targeted as solid attacking card in the early game. I don't have a weapon. Fairy Dragon it is. Fairy Dragon is just more early pressure. We have Frost Shock, Iron Beak Owl for more silence. The Storm Forged Axe. 1 damage to an enemy in freezing will help me slow up the opponent. The Storm Forged Axe will let me pick off things in the early game and keep me in the zone. So I'm tempted to go for that in the Iron Beak Owl. I'm going to go for the Axe. Reason it will give me some control in the early game. Forked Lightning, the Silver Hand Knight, the Storm Pike Commando. Forked Lightning is another control option. The Silver Hand Knight is a 2-for-1 with a very solid 4/4 health. I can buff those minions. And then we've already covered the Storm Pike Commando. So to cement my mid game, I'm going to keep that Silver Hand Knight because it will let me just keep dropping on cards. The Raid Leader, the Novice Engineer, and the Oasis Snapdraw. So the Oasis Snapdraw, let's just deal with first. If I have cards like the Sun Fury Protector or anything that can give that taunt tank status, it immediately becomes a very, very formidable awkward tank. The Novice Engineer I can just drop and lets me draw a card. The Raid Leader buffs all my other minions. I'm swarming, so in the absence of card draw, I will go for the Raid Leader for the global buff. Ogamegai, Fairy Dragon again, and the Senjin. Senjin is a basic card. If you are a new player, you get this as one of your basic cards. It's an excellent early to mid-game taunt. Shows use in competitive decks. Really, really solid if you want to stall up your opponent in the mid-game. Ogamegai, another spell damage card. 4/4 is solid, and the spell damage will let them keep playing. And then the Fairy Dragon for more attacking ability. Next up, when we get to 20, we'll do a final quick review. We've got the Demolisher. At the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. Awkward in Arena. That really causes some problems. Stampeding Kodo, destroying a random minion with 2 or less attack. Expensive mana, but that makes up for a bunch of stuff. Last but not least, the Defender of Argus, giving adjacent minions 1/1 on taunt. I'm just going to throw that straight down into the Argus. Reason for that, it powers up my minions like other cards. It makes them tanks and makes things very, very awkward. So next up, Windfury Harpy, the South Sea Deckhand, and the Spellbreaker. For those of you who have just joined us, Shaman was picked, and we are also looking at in terms of deck theme, we're looking at an early to mid-game swarm, possibly focused around murlocs. Happy birthday as well to Lud. Who is birthday? So happy birthday to Ludmil BG, tuning on the stream. Happy birthday stream, pick your deck. Cool, the choice here is Windfury Harpy from the chat. Birthday boy's choice, so there we go. Next up we have Lightning Storm. Sun Fury Protector and the Mana Addict. Lightning Storm, that is great AoE clearance. I can be clearing people out if they are low health minions, if someone is trying to swarm me. Sip of coffee. Next up, Sun Fury Protector, 2/3/2, giving your adjacent minions taunt. Think of it as a budget version of the Defender of Argus. Budgetissimo. You do not get the additional buffs, but what you do get is just 2 minions being given taunt anyway. And last but not least, the Mana Addict. Whenever you cast a spell, gain 2 attack this turn. Lightning Storm is the chat's choice. Earthshock, Ethering Farseer, or the Southsea Deckhand. Right, Ethering Farseer, solid for its statistics. The Battle Cry does give you a little bit of health as well, so there's no problem whatsoever. Buff yourself up good. Next option, Earthshock, the silence a minion and dealing 1 damage. Do not underestimate. Silencing a minion, just like your owl, can be oh so handy. Last but not least, the Deckhand charges while you have a weapon equipped, so it will give you a chance for a little bit of additional pressure. So nothing to complain about. Earthshock is the choice of chat. Lovely stuff. We are rolling good. Let us pick a Spellbreaker, a Priestess of Elune, and a Stormpike Commando. Right, while those are being picked, I'm just going to quickly do another deck review. We are about roughly 2/3 through, so top arena tip, review your deck at regular intervals. How are we looking? Well, we can see an excessively early mana curve. We are trying to hit early and hard and finish the game as soon as we can. What is the look of our sort of spells to minions ratio? Well, we've got 1 spell, 2 spell, 3 spell. 3 spells and then a whole bunch of minions, so 20 minions and 3 spells. We're trying to get minions down on the board and hit hard with them. We are aggro, aggro, aggro. Last but not least, how does our deck look as we play through the different mana? Right, well in the early game we've got some control in our spells. We've got knacks that we can use to trade our hero's health and control the table. We can then attack hard with our Fairy Dragon, buff with our Flame Tongue Totem, silence with our Owl, swarm with some of our Murlocs, get new effects with our Brewmaster, and then we've got a Lightning Storm in there as well for more control. As we come into the early to mid game, we have got card draw aplenty, in Acolyte of Pain, Cold Light Oracle, and also our Cult Master. The Raid Leader and Yeti will let us buff and have some mid-game stability, and then also we've got the Murloc War Leader, who will buff any other Murlocs. As we get into the mid-game, Earth Elemental can put a taunting wall up with the Silverhand Knight, Windfury, Harpy, Argus. We can put some bigger walls up in the way as well to slow our opponent down or go in for the kill. We have a split chat. Because the chat is split, I'm going to go for the Spellbreaker for silence. Next, Windfury, Flame Tongue Totem, and the Magma Rager. Right, well, Windfury. Give a minion Windfury. Windfury, for those of you not acquainted with that mechanic, simply means you can attack twice in 1 turn. So you've got to play a card, play a minion, wait 1 turn for its usual summoning sickness, as it would be called in Magic or similar card games, and then once it's been down for a turn, you can attack twice with it if you play Windfury on it. Next up, Flame Tongue Totem. Adjacent minions have 2 attack. Again, we've got 2 of those already. Another could always be good, very dangerous. Last but not least, the Magma Rager. Totem has been picked. Totem is our choice. Oh, and a legendary draft. We can have the Captain Greenskin. We can have Cairn Bloodhoof. And last but not least, we have Deathwing. Ching. Ching to the Deathwing. Oh, that's got to be worth a little screenshot. Screenshot that up. There we go. So Greenskin, where do we use him? Well, he buffs the weapon and his stats are solid. That's pretty much what we say about Greenskin. Cairn Bloodhoof, when he dies you get a 4/5, so he's 2 for the price of 1 in the most elusive stuff. Last but not least, Deathwing. Okay, well, it wouldn't be my draft choice, but because it is Lud's birthday, Deathwing it is. A special birthday pick for you there. Let's hope we can get him out. So, next, let's go for the Voodoo Doctor, Hex, or Guru Bashi Berserker. Okay, we're almost there. Let's draft away and get 1 game in. Let's get this going. Quick. Voodoo Doctor, turn 1 drop, restore 2 health. That 2 health doesn't have to be the hero. Hex is the pick of the chat because we want that for crowd control. Good decision. That makes it quick. Next, the Frostwolf Grunt, the Elven Archer, or the Scarlet Crusader. Elven Archer pings for 1 damage with that Battle Cry, 1/1/1 otherwise, so that 1 damage, really a tactical play. A low mana cost, Taunt in the Frostwolf Grunt, and then last but not least the Scarlet Crusader. They all dropped in. Oh, you're going to let me pick, thank you very much. I'm going to slow the game up with a Grunt, just in case we're in trouble. Next we've got the Bluegill Warrior, the Frostwolf Warlord, and then another Fork Lightning. Okay. Warrior, drop in, charge, damage, die. That is its purpose. Warlord, 1/1 for each other friendly minion on the battlefield. That could do some serious damage. We just don't know. But given that we're trying to swarm in the early game, that could be a good mid-game pick. Last but not least, Fork Lightning. We've already gone through, but that's just more control. It will let us get rid of horrible minions in the early game, most probably, especially if we're getting swarmed with small minions. But Overload 2. Forked has been picked. Forked is the decision. Last card. We've got the Mana Wraith, the Questing Adventurer, and the Murloc Tidecaller. Ooh, okay. So we originally started trying to play a Murloc deck. We've actually only got 1, 2, 3. I think we've got 4 Murlocs in total. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Only 3 Murlocs. We really failed on Murlocs, but we've still got a good swarm. And yes, I agree, Questing Adventurer will work well. So what do we have? Let's just have a quick review. We're now going to take your deck into action. You've chosen. We're going to fly into battle and see what goes on. So, what have we got? We've got a huge early mana curve. We are hitting hard and early in this deck. We are playing lots of cheap cards. So we started off with that goal. It was going to be Murlocs. It's moved slightly away from that, but we're still going to be hitting hard in the early game. We're rushing, no doubt about it. As we look in the late game, we've got some tactical options, but there is not loads in the late game that we can use. Let's have a quick look. We still don't have many spells. We've topped up the spells a bit, but I still estimate, without scrolling all the way through, that we have probably a max of 5-6 spells tops. We've got Hex, so Earthshock, 2 Fork Lightning, that's 3, 4, 5. We can see a Lightning Storm in, yeah, that's 5, yeah, only 5 spells, I think. Lots of minions. How does the deck play? Your final review point before you throw yourself into battle. Well, we can start the game with heavy early control. We can swarm a lot with a lot of cheap minions. We've got tanks, silences. We can generally keep our opponent under control with minions in the early game. That is the goal. Flame Tongue will buff us. We've got 2, I believe, raid leaders as well. Chill and Yetis into the mid game will help us survive that early to mid game transition. And if we get into the late game, we can start hitting away with our big cards. And if we get to that stage, we will Deathwing. It will be loads of fun. Thanks for the picks. Let's get a game in. So to keep it to a half-stone, half-hour, we're going to be just playing the one game. We're going to see how this game goes. But we will absolutely tweet and let you guys know whenever we will be playing another game with this deck. Because even though we can't always finish this off, we will, on the night, we will always try and play it later in the week. So what was our goal? Hey, and welcome, Shatton. Welcome to Shatton as well. It's always good to see new faces. Okay, so the goal of this deck was to swarm in the early game. We have Fork Lightning, Flame Tongue Totem. We're playing a Paladin. He could also swarm early. I really would like some more early game options. I've got my control. The raid leader will help me buff. I can summon totems. You know what? I'm gonna risk this as a beginning. I don't probably need 2 buff cards, so I'm gonna trade back the raid leader. Fairy Dragon. There we go. I've got a better early game attacking card, so I'm very happy for that. First up, so small minions. We know that they can have lots of ugly early buffing options too. Do I want to get really aggro, really Larry? I'm going to coin out. I'm not going to coin out my Cult Master. I'm going to coin out my Frostwolf Grunt because I can buff him turn 2. So, first up we can see Panda straight down, returning. He's got his Brewmaster down there. I can buff, I can trade, I've got lots of different options. I can actually just Stormforged Axe, and this is quite a solid option. This is why I bought this axe, and you'll see that competitive Shaman's decks also run this axe. You need to use your Shaman's health as an option by taking out that minion. He's not going to take away my tank. I protected it. I have taken 3 damage, but I can also keep my tank on the table for 1 more turn. That should hopefully help me get some field position. You can have a see that I've had to take an overload, so not quite so good there. Next option, what do I want to do? Well, I can put some pressure on. I can force him to try and kill me if I want. If I Flame Tongue, then that will let me put some more pressure on him. In terms of options, I'm going to throw down the Fairy. I could... Another option, I could have gone for a hard control play and use my X again. Instead, I'm just going to swing in and put lots of pressure on his hero. Now, an option, if you see a Harvest Golem, whether you are playing a constructed game, whether you are playing an arena game, that is just such a good card. It's a 2-for-1 in the most traditional sense. If it dies, it becomes equally threatening. Now, note what our Paladin has dropped here. This is a great card. You'll see this in constructed ranked games. You'll see it in arenas as well. If I saw it in an arena, I'd pick it. Whenever you summon a minion, give it 1/1, and instead of losing attack, the weapon loses durability. So every minion that this Paladin drops will have an additional 1 attack and 1 health. Scary. Can get very scary very quick. Righty then, I've got a questing adventure. Whenever I play a card, gain 1/1. I think I'll probably save that for later in the game. There's no real reason for me to flame tongue it up just yet, but I'm actually going to take some more damage from that, and I'm just going to keep swinging on in. Now note, interestingly, that because he summons that actually counts as a summon effect for Sword of Justice. He doesn't have to play it on the table, even if it just drops on the table. That was 2-1, it's now 3-2, and he now has a horrible Fen Creeper taunt on the table that again becomes 4-7. So cleverly he has traded away my Cult Master, and that means that I cannot take any card draw for any of my other minions dying, so that's a little bit awkward. What can I do? Well, that is nasty. Now, the Chillwind Yeti will certainly give me an opportunity to kill that in a few turns' time. 5-2, I can buff up a Questing Adventurer and make it a little bit ugly. I'm going to throw down a little bit of pressure. That gives me a swarm, but I'm not going to be able to remove this right away. So I've thrown everything down there to give him those options. I could just go straight in for an attack and ping off 3. That will certainly set it up unless he can clear me off the table for some kind of kill next go. In fact, just so he could have in his hand Consecrate or something similar, something that does 2 damage to the entire field. So to make sure I get the value of that attack, Questing Adventurer back. Dread Corsair goes down, and that is a great card. Not only does it buff his Questing Adventurer, but he will get the benefit from Sword of Justice. A very nicely put together Paladin deck we're seeing so far. And last but not least, he opts for the pick-off. You can see that even if I drop 1 tank, I am going to be suffering. I've got another tank to get through and 2 rather scary cards. So what can I do? Well, first thing up, I can trade this away. That will then let me Fork Lightning, which will guarantee 2 damage to both of those. And then I can Chillwind and Totemic Call, or I can Fairy Dragon and Totemic Call. First things first, it might buff my Fork Lightning, so there's a method to the madness here in that I should play my Totem first to see if it gives me spell damage, and you know what, it actually does. So that now does 3 damage to 2 random enemy minions. So that means I get both of those within kill range. It's not quite a knockout blow, but what it means is that I, for starters, must play an order and not risk over damaging that. Next up, what can I do? Well, Fairy Dragon, getting down the Chillwind, of course means I can't play the Forked. So the Fairy Dragon is the obvious drop. Fork Lightning will mean that, although I do overload, I can probably remove one of those 2 unless he goes for a heal next go. So, some nice pressure there. Oh, and we can see the Questing Adventurer being maxed out to its totally awesome effect. The heal comes in, so he's taken the damage, but he's healed up. There's no way I can remove that. We are in a pretty nasty position, I would say. So I can summon a Totem and try and slow him down. I can drop the Yeti, but he's going to be able to trade that in one go too. He can not only trade that in one go, but he can keep his Guardian of Kings alive. I think I'm going to have to throw down... I could throw down a Totem and a Flame Tongue, but they will probably both get picked off next go as well. And you can see the overload mechanic coming into play now. I wouldn't say I'm suffering, but I'm certainly not in the strongest of positions. So let's see what we've got. I could throw down, if the best comes best, this could be a tank, a stone totem. And then if I dropped a Flame Tongue totem, we'd have to do something to it. I think I'm just going to have to slow him down, try and slow him down with the Yeti. I've still got good health. This is not over yet. I do have control cards in hand, but I haven't swarmed as early in the game as I would have liked to have done. And we can see the play. There goes the Ogre Magi. That Questing Adventurer becoming so nasty so quick. You can see every card he's playing. The Hammer of Wrath lets him do 4 and draw a card. He can swing in. This could be over and real bad real fast. Thank goodness we have some options there at least. So the Iron Beak Owl, let's just get rid of that nastiness. We can at least debuff that remove the threat. I can throw down a Flame Tongue, or I can throw out another totem. I'm going to go for another totem to save that Flame Tongue, and at least we've got a Stone Skin, and then finally I can drop a Defender of Argus. So that is not going to by any means win me the game, but that Argus coming out, you can see it's bought me at least a turn. This is not good for Team FailCraft, not good for our Shaman deck. We can see he can still be trading away our cards with little consequence, and there goes the War Golem, a card that no one would ever play usually otherwise. There goes the Young Priestess that we saw in our draft. That is going to be adding 1 health to his minions every go. No, trust our luck, it just buffs the one that we're not interested in. I believe this is game. Reason for that? He has, count them, 12, 16, 18 damage on the table. And even if I throw all of these down, you know what? There's nothing I can do there. Well played. Oh, in the chat, did you screw this immediately? No, you did not. It was a very rough matchup. There was not much we were going to be able to do with that. Oh, Holy Wrath. Draw a card and deal damage equal to its cost. How embarrassing. So that is that game. So well played, guys. So what went wrong there? It's always worth, you know, sometimes you're just never going to win because you get a bad draw. But I think, how can we have played that differently? Well, in the early game, we could have maybe done a few different trades. Remember, of course, our goal was to get lots of cheap cards in the early game. I could have mulliganed more aggressively. That Cult Master probably wasn't so much use as I thought it would have been. I could have probably done with the 1 on mana, 2 mana drop, and then put more pressure on his hero with my minions. I didn't really keep the board enough under control in the early game, so maybe picking some more Forked Lightnings would have been useful, or similar. Maybe I should have been more aggressive in terms of removing some of his minions. What was the problem? When that Questing Adventurer dropped, when he started dropping that tank in the Fen Creeper, I couldn't get around them. So maybe more silences. I did have a few silences in there, but they just didn't come out either. So I'd probably say part play, but also part fortune in card choices, and that is always the way that the gods of the arena and the lords of the arena judge us. So that is our Hearthstone half hour. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I'm sorry that this was a quick episode. We always try and keep it to half an hour. Usually every night after we've done the commentated episode, we will come back and silent stream and play for a while, because I've been off for a bunch of days. I've been at E3 for a week, and then I've just been on holiday a couple of days. I'm not going to be streaming on this evening, but when I'm back into the swing of things tomorrow night and later this week, I will stream on for a bit after the episode is finished and keep playing more games. But we will certainly come and play some more of this arena deck later in the week, possibly Thursday, possibly Friday. So come back this Thursday or Friday to see more. So in conclusion, what did we do? What did we learn? We took the arena deck as always on Tuesday that you chose. You wanted us to play Shaman. We played Shaman. We then jumped into a draft. We went for quite an aggressive, early swarming, aggro, whatever you want to call it, deck. We tried to make sure, as always, in Pick Your Own Arena, that we kept an eye on our mana curve. We reviewed the cards we were picking at regular basis, say 10, 20, 25 cards. We always took a look at the amount of spells to the amount of minions we had to make sure that our deck was relatively balanced, or that we had the cards that we needed for whatever theme we had. And point 4, last but not least, we always tried to keep some kind of theme going, or identify the theme that we were moving the deck towards, or we were wanting to try and play as we went through the arena. Because you might go out and say, I want to rush with Hunter and have lots of minions and hit him in the face, but the arena gods might not give you those in terms of draft. RNGesus may not give you the fortune that you want. So you need to have an idea of the theme, but you need to be flexible. As you move through your pick, you need to see, this is my rough theme, and you need to think, are the cards I'm getting, can I still do this theme? Do I need to change it a bit? And that is why we say look at your spells to minions, look at your mana curve, look at your deck, and just generally what you've got in it at regular intervals throughout the draft. When you've picked 10 cards, when you pick 15 cards, 20 cards, or as long as you do it regularly, you will have a good idea of where your deck is going, and you're not going to pick a deck and then look back and think, ooh, that's a bit strange. So, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Hammy, this has been FailCraft Casts, the usual sign-off. Where can you find us? If you are viewing this live, fantastic, you can see all of our old stuff at youtube.com/FailCraftCasts. Subscribe, comment, you can see loads of Hearthstone half hour. Mondays, we do New Player Mondays, or Deck Garage, where we take a deck, break it down, we've either played against it or you guys request it, and see how it plays, so we can understand different Hearthstone decks. Tuesday, we do like today, Pick Your Own Arena. You guys on Twitter vote for a arena hero for us to play. We play it, you tune in live, you pick the You pick the cards that we actually choose, and then we go and play some games and see how it goes. Wednesday is Ladder Wednesday. We just get in, play ladder straight up. Wherever I am at the ladder at that particular time, we both analyse my deck that I'm playing and the opponents that I'm playing against, and hopefully I don't fail too hard. Though the name of this is FailCraft, I'm going to make mistakes. But as long as we all learn from them, it's all good. Thursday is generally tactics. We look for sort of more intermediate to advanced kind of card playing concepts, and then Friday is Fun Friday. We'll either play some totally fun Hearthstone, or play games against you guys on the stream. We will play a different game entirely. We also play League of Legends, StarCraft, Diablo, Warcraft, Xbox, you name it, all of those kind of stuffs. That kind of thing. So you can find us on YouTube, Twitter, twitter.com/FailCraft Casts. Tweet us whenever. We'd love to hear from you. We're always chatting away, even if we're not streaming. The website, failcraft.org, you can find all of our videos hosted there with a bit more written article and blog around them, as well as new player links and guides, things that aren't so good on the video but live on the website. Last but not least, if you are on YouTube, you can tune in live. We try and stream live. UK time, it's generally 7 to 8 p.m, or starting at one of those times, Monday through Friday. Now, that can change a bit, so if you look on Twitter at FailCraft Casts, you can see us tweet maybe half an hour and an hour before when we're actually going to go live, so you can make sure that you don't miss out. That is us. Thank you so much for tuning into the Hearthstone Half Hour. Big shout out to Lud, it's his birthday today, happy birthday, and a big shout out to Shatton and all of you guys who are joining us on stream, either new or for the first time. It's great to see you. I hope you sign into Twitch next time. Come, chat, subscribe, have a good time. Thanks very much for tuning in, and I hope to see you